Hey, alchemist, and welcome to Playground Earth, where we are here to learn how to play the game of life because it has been scientifically proven that we learn more quickly through play than through punishment, which is what life can feel like sometimes. So today I want to talk about the difference between doing and being. Okay? Because one of those things will keep us from mastering the game of life. So doing. When we talk about doing, you might call your friend, hey, what are you doing? Your friend will say, oh, maybe she's gardening or pulling weeds or, I don't know, doing laundry, right? We do stuff. All day long, we do stuff. Now, sometimes in our doing, what's happening is we are seeking an end result. We're not in it for the experience of doing. For example, an experience of doing, it might be you're watching a movie and you're enjoying the movie, or you're having dinner with some people you care about. However, there's some things that we do and we just want to get them over with, right? Maybe you're cleaning your house, or maybe you have to mow the lawn, right? And you're doing it, it needs to get done, and you just want to get it over with. But sometimes then it can feel like, well, everything is a chore, right? Everything is a chore. Back in the 80s, I heard the term for the first time, working for the weekend, right? Everybody is working for the weekend. The implication here is that we go to a job Monday through Friday, and we do it just for the paycheck. And then the weekend is when we get to be ourselves and have fun. Now, sometimes our doing can look like the things that we want to accomplish, right? Like maybe like my husband and I right now, we're looking for a new home. Okay, and so we go through these things to buy a new home. And eventually, when we find our home, I'm going to have to pack up my old house. I'm going to have to do that. Do I want to do it? No. It's going to be one of those things that I just get through it to get it over with so that I can get moved. Okay? I felt like this when I went to college. It's like I would take classes. I went to night school usually. When I took another class, but then I would just try to get through it so I could get to the next class. All right? So sometimes that's how we're doing, but it's not for the experience of the doing. Now, also, our doing, we might reword it and say like, well, I'm doing research, okay, or I'm learning things, and they turn into distractions, okay, but they're things that we think, we need to know so that we can do this thing. So again, it's like, it's a means to an end, all right? Now, also, in this day and age, we are literally inundated with things that we can learn. And so we just keep learning all these things, but like for what reason and to what end? Like you could literally turn off this video and go research, Dutch ovens or how to bake sourdough bread, right? And you could go and look up anything practically, okay? Now here's the thing with learning, is that sometimes we use learning as an excuse to not do the thing we want to do yet. Like we'll think, I have to learn one more thing. We can actually, though, confuse the learning with the practice, right? We think that the learning is changing our lives, but not necessarily. I took math, I took all the required math in school, and yet as soon as I got out of college, I still would have to ask my husband how to figure out how to calculate a tip if we went out to eat. Okay, now in the spiritual community, we have the same problem because there are so many spiritual teachings available to us. You could again turn off this video, but don't. But you could go research the teachings of Alice Bailey and Ernest Holmes and Native American shamanism. I mean, you could go research so many spiritual teachings. Now, The thing is with all these spiritual teachings available to us, we can learn some really interesting things, and then we start having these aha moments. And then we can get addicted to having these aha moments because they're so profound. But here's the thing, when we have an aha moment, that doesn't mean we actually are putting this new teaching into practice in our life. I can remember the aha moment I had, and this was in 2012, and I remember sitting in front of my bookcase, and I had an aha moment about how I was learning and learning and learning so many things, but it wasn't changing my life, all that learning, because I wasn't putting what I was learning to work in my life, right? Literally, I had that aha moment in 2012, and I did something afterwards like, wow, that's so profound. I need to put all this to work. That's all I need to do. I think I'll go get a coffee and buy another book now, right? And it still took me a while to actually realize I have to put it to work in my life to see the benefit of it, to see how it really can work for me. So we have this doing, right? We're doing in our life. And so often what we're doing is we just want to get something done. We want to get there. We want to get someplace, right? We have this idea of when I've done all this studying, then I can be a spiritual master, right? We have a lot of things we do that are distractions, right? And it's like, well, I want to read one more book, take one more workshop. Okay, so this is what happens with our doing. Now our being is different from doing in that being is our presence in the process of what we're doing, right? No matter what we're doing. So it turns out it's not about what we do, it's about how we do it. Now here in the game of life, we talked about the foundational rule or principle is to know thyself. Now as we are going deeper into knowing ourselves, right, of course we are learning more about ourselves and we can show up for this game in a bigger, bolder, brighter way. So now when we look at doing versus being, what it's teaching us is that we get to see how we're showing up. Right? Are we showing up as the divine creator that we are, that we came here to be? Or are we showing up through our doing as a victim? Right? Well, I just have to get this out of the way. I just have to get this over with. Okay? So something that profoundly hit me, it was a story I heard a long time ago. And it stayed with me. It stayed with me, and it was something I did put to work in my life, because it was very profound. But it's this idea that there's only one soul, and that's us, right? And we are the one. Our one soul, this one soul, is living all these different lives on planet Earth right now. And what I started thinking then was that, okay, so that means like right now I'm experiencing life as Deanna, but then next time I'm experiencing life as somebody else, right? And the power of this story is that, okay, how do we want to show up then for that other person who could be us in another life? How would we want to show up for them? Okay, now, a few years ago, I started down this caregiving journey for my aunt in 2012. And then my mom was injured, and in 2014 we added her into the caregiving mix. And they lived in my aunt's mobile home. They had a live-in caregiver, but I was still managing care. This was probably the most stressful, anxious time of my life. Like I felt a tremendous amount of anxiety around this. And I remember when I would drive them to their doctor appointments or whatever, I would do it really fast. I would drive way too fast. I would rush them into the doctor's office. Everything that I did that had to do with my doing for their caregiving care, I did really, really fast because I was just trying to get it over with. Okay, so one day I'm driving my aunt to a doctor's appointment, and I had this thought. It's kind of a creepy thought, okay? But I was thinking, wow, one day she's going to die and I won't have to do this anymore. But then it hit me, like one day she's going to die and I won't get to do this anymore. Right? I saw it differently. And then I thought of that Buddhist story. And as we got to the doctor's office, and I was thinking about, okay, I look at my aunt, and what if this is me in another life? How would I want my niece, Deanna, to show up for me at a time when I feel very vulnerable and that I'm very sick and I need such a high level of care? How would I want my niece to show up for me? So I just asked her, I'm like, hey, when we're done here, how about if we go to your favorite craft store and then we'll go get some lunch and take it home to everybody? And she just lit up. And in that moment, I remember thinking, wow, if this was our last appointment together, I'm really happy about how we spent it. And I did that then for the next few years. It's like, I'm really happy about how we spent this time together. Okay? So this understanding of how I was being when I was showing up to the doing, it helped me understand, or it helped me embody compassion. And compassion is a quality of our being, right? When I could realize in that moment, she wasn't doing this to me, life was not doing this to me, my suffering was all on me. And see, when we embody compassion, this puts us in oneness consciousness or unity consciousness. We embody compassion. We feel our connection to the other person. It acknowledges our shared humanity. Now, the goal in this game of life that we are all here playing is to recognize who we really are. That we are divine, we are a divine being in a body here having a human experience, right? And we gain greater understanding of this by being in unity consciousness, right? By having the compassion for that other person who may eat, vote, pray, or parent differently than we do, right? To be in this oneness consciousness, right? It is a practice, right? We got to practice. It's not easy. Like for me, I had to really remind myself, okay, Deanna, don't be all weirded out. Just be compassionate, right? I would have to do that. But really this practice can be as simple as God is all things. And that means me. And that means all of what I'm going through right now. God is all things. And that also means the condition that is happening, in my life, in my community, in my country. God is everywhere present. God's already in all of this. Now what happens is we're having reverence, right? We experience reverence. God is all things. Not just saying it. You can't just say it. You have to experience it. Wow, God is all things. The divine is even in this person that doesn't eat, vote, pray, parent like I do. And we experience devotion, right? We commit to seeing the divine in all things. We commit to seeing only the wonder that is the divine. Now, reverence and devotion, this is grace. Okay, this is the grace of spirit. The grace giving us anything that we need in that moment, right? To help us get through. So we practice compassion to be in this oneness consciousness. And that's basically what I did with my aunt and what I do now, in my life with different people that I know. I'll ask myself, okay, do I want to judge that person like I just judged him? Do I really want to judge them? How would I want to show up for them if that's me in a whole other life, right? How do I want to show up for them? Do I want to be all judgy? No, I don't. Okay, so moving into compassion, so we can practice being in unity consciousness. Of course, this helps us to up-level our quality of being. Also, practicing gratitude and appreciation help to change the quality of our being. There's a reason that it is said, the more that you give thanks for, the more you're given to be thankful for, right? The universe is always responding to us. So as we give thanks, as we have appreciation, as we express a gratitude, the universe does respond and give us more. Okay, now Peace Pilgrim. If you don't know who Peace Pilgrim is, please Google her, Peace Pilgrim. She said, I did not learn meditation. I just walked, receptive and silent, and put the wonderful insights that came to me into practice. This is just do it, right? Just do it. Just start putting things into practice. You know something right now you could put into practice, right? God is all things. How does that look? Put it into practice. What does it look like right now to just say, God is all things? Wow. And that means me. Now, I know that it can be tempting to want to just learn one more thing. Just read one more book. Just take one more workshop. Watch one more spiritual video, right, on YouTube. But we can actually get going right now. Now, I will tell you, one of the reasons we can be tempted to want to learn more first, before we really get started, is that when we put something into practice, it can feel very awkward. Okay, it can feel very awkward. But think about this, the more you practice something, the more repetitions you put in, the easier it gets, and pretty soon you don't even think about it. Like when you learn to drive a car, right? When you first were driving the car, it felt awkward and you were on high alert. But after years of driving, you can drive around and think about other things. You can listen to podcasts while you're driving. Okay, so we just have to put something into practice over and over again. Eventually, that feeling of awkwardness will go away. So we don't really have to learn the one more new thing. We just have to keep practicing it. Okay, so a practice we can put to work right now is, of course, practicing compassion. Compassion leads to reverence for all things, and it leads to devotion, being committed to seeing God in all things. And this is where we start experiencing oneness consciousness. And yes, it will feel awkward until it doesn't. Okay, it will feel awkward. Being compassionate towards somebody, first it might feel kind of hard and awkward and like you don't really want to, and like you might still think, well, I'd rather be right than happy, right? But eventually, it feels good to be compassionate, okay? Eventually, we hit a point where it's okay to let people have their own belief systems. I mean, because seriously, who do we think we are that we think we know how someone else should eat, vote, pray, parent in their own life? Like, how can we even know that for other people, right? We can really only know these things for ourselves, right? But it's okay. If I believe one thing and you believe another, it's okay. Like what we have in common is that we are spiritual beings in a human experience. Being on this planet right now is hard. It's not necessary for us to agree on everything. We just don't. But there are the things that we can acknowledge as part of our shared humanity, like, dang, life can be really hard. Like things can feel scary sometimes when there's so much division, right? So we practice, we embody God is all things. We do the reps over and over and over again till it stops feeling awkward, right? This is a practice of spiritual fitness, okay? And just think, you don't become a great musician if you buy a keyboard and stick it in the corner and then go sit and watch TV, right? Practice, 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 practice. Okay, so I have an affirmation for us. And I will say when I first started saying this affirmation, like back in 2012, it felt very awkward. But I love it now, and it's it feels very good in my body when I say it. This affirmation is, I am a divine being in a body. And I'm going to ask you to say this and put the emphasis on the am. All right. And I even like to put my hand over my heart. Okay. I am a divine being in a body. I am a divine being in a body. I am a divine being in a body. So remember the first rule in our game of life, this game that we're playing, that we are seeking to up-level and master. That first rule, the foundational rule, is know thyself. And this is all about being. This is all about how we show up. All right? And so at some point, after watching this video and you go into your day, you can pay attention to like, how are you doing what you do? Because it turns out doing and being are both being, right? How we do what we do shows us how we are being, how we're showing up, right? So like I would ask myself, all right, is this thing I'm doing right now, is it to distract myself? Which shows up for me in that I'll listen to YouTube videos. I'm like, oh, I've got to listen to one more YouTube video on spirituality, right? Right? I think I want to listen to a video on like how to change a belt to fix a dryer, okay? Like I don't need to know all that, okay? But what we're doing, are we doing something that's just distracting us? Are we doing something thinking, oh, I don't want to do this, I just got to get it over with? Well, that's how we're feeling in our doing. Then we want to ask ourselves, okay, how am I being? What's my being here? Am I showing up as a victim of this condition, a victim of circumstance? Like it's not fair, but I just have to do this, so I'll just do it with a little resentment and saltiness, and that's how I'm going to show up, right? Or are we being our true, authentic self? Are we being the divine, loving creator that we came here to be? Now, of course, there is nothing wrong with just doing stuff, right? But it is good to track how we do what we do, because this gives us the opportunity to show up as the big light that we came here to be, right? And if we're doing something and we're just doing it, if we're feeling resentful and bitter, it's not going to add the goodness to our life that we would probably really like to have. So it is good to track it. So when we track our doing and our being, this is where we'll notice, right? Am I seeing life as a mystic? Am I seeing life as a mystic, that God is everywhere present, God is everything that's ever been, everything that's yet to be? It's me, it's the conditions I'm in, and it's also the solutions that can, come from surprising places. If I can see into the world as a mystic, I can live my life as an alchemist, meaning that there is the power that creates worlds is at work in me. And so if I've been dealt a hand I don't like, if there is a condition that I'm not crazy about, as an alchemist, I will find a solution, right? I will discover how to either change what I'm going through, or maybe I rise above it because it can't be changed. But see, when we see into the world as a mystic and we are living our lives as an alchemist, that is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, remember, you are divinely designed to be doing all of this. You are a one-time, one-of-a-kind cosmic event. In everything you do, you are blessed, and so it is.